Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming. So good morning, it's Tuesday. Did everybody have a good Veterans Day yesterday? Any veterans in the audience? Thank you so much for your service, Richard. Okay, so my name is Lynn Drinkwater, and I'm the Moore County Senior Enrichment Center's Program Coordinator, and I thank you all for coming to this presentation. I'm going to read a little bit about Scott. How many people saw the press release in the paper? Okay, everybody else came because they either saw it in the newsletter or the sign out front? Okay, great. We try to do a little bit of everything because it's hard to get everybody to notice all the little things that you've got set up in the lobby as people kind of walk through. So it's nice to know that all the facets of marketing are working. So that's great. If there's somebody that didn't come today that you wanted to have come today, just make sure that they know on our SEC YouTube channel, this is going to be live streamed. And then once it's finished, it becomes a video. And all you have to do is go to the live tab on our YouTube channel, and you can watch any kind of presentation that we've done here over the last couple of years. So Scott Brooks and I, gosh, we've had a relationship now for 11 years. He's wonderful. He comes once or twice a year and does these presentations. And once you say his name, people come, which is wonderful because he has a lot of great information. So I'm going to read a little bit about Scott. So Scott Brooks is the Division Chief and Deputy Director of Public Safety Emergency Management of Moore County. So he has served over 30 years in emergency services in both the hospital-owned and county-operated systems. He is responsible for the administration and operations oversight for the department's Emergency Medical Services Division, E911 for Emergency 911 Division, and the Emergency Management Division. He holds a North Carolina paramedic certification, critical care paramedic certification, and is a nationally registered paramedic. Scott also holds Communications Center Manager, Technical Rescue Instructor, North Carolina Executive Level Emergency Management Coordinator credential, as well as the distinction of being a Certified Emergency Manager recognized by the International Association of Emergency Managers, recognized by the International Association. Oh, looks like we had two sentences, a little ditto was there. So anyway, in his spare time, he also serves as the All Hazards Incident Management Team and frequently conducts training and exercises across the state. And he lives on a family farm in southwest Chatham County with his wife. He has 2 adult sons who are married, and he has 3 grandchildren. So Scott's a busy man, as you can tell. And so usually we do safety classes in August, but Scott's schedule is ridiculously booked. So we're very thankful that he came today. And so now I'd like to welcome Scott Brooks. That one, and I'll keep this one. There you go. Thank you. Technology works great when it works. There you go. We'll try that one.
All right, let's try it again. So that's pretty old because now I have 4 grandchildren. So, and some of that's a little outdated. So anyway, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. And I will struggle with this microphone, I promise. I will drop it and not be able to keep it up close to me. I'm just not used to talking with a microphone as much as what I should. So I do appreciate the opportunity to be with you. I'm going to spend a little bit of time kind of going through a presentation and try to kind of hit the highlights of emergency preparedness, but we will have plenty of opportunity to answer any questions that you might have towards the end. But I'm pretty laid back from a presentation standpoint. So if we get some questions in the middle, if there's just a burning topic that you need to ask, then please just raise your hand and I'll try my best to call on you. If I know that I've got something coming up, I might say, just give me just 1 second, let me finish this, and I might be able to answer your question through that process. Then bear with me there. And let me get through that process here. If it begins to be too much, then I'll tell you that for the sake of time, let's just go ahead and proceed, and then we'll get questions at the end. But I think we will be fine as far as time is concerned here. So what that long speech that she done about means that I've been around for a pretty good while. Is all it really means, that I'm older than what sometimes I think. I do appreciate the opportunity to be in Moore County. I've been here about 20 years now. I've pretty blessed to be able to work here in the county and get to do the things that I'm able to do. We have several threats or hazards that we deal with on an annual basis. We do what is called all hazards planning. So in other words, we don't just plan for 1 or 2 or even 3 or 4 types of hazards. We plan for all types of hazards, even hazards that we don't deal with on an occasional basis. That kind of keeps us in a forward-leaning posture. It keeps us prepared for things that even are something that we just don't believe that will happen very often, like our power outage in December from a couple of years ago. If I think most of you were probably here and kind of suffered through that. That was something that you just, even in your kind of nightmares, you just don't think of things such as that to be able to happen. So there's really no plan. There's no process that you go through to be able to prepare for that. However, think about it. Do we have hurricanes here? Yeah. Do we prepare and plan for hurricanes? Absolutely. Does hurricanes occasionally take the power out? So in essence, we do prepare and plan for power outages, right? Because we prepare and plan for hurricanes. And the same thing with snowstorms, or ice storms, I should say. We don't have as much snow. We have more ice. So unfortunately, when we have ice, it pulls trees down, which pulls power lines down. When it does, we have power outages. It's the same thing from a power outage from that if it is from someone shooting up one of our, actual power grids. So we had power outages. We were prepared. We were planned for that. And we responded to that. And actually, the community done exceptionally well responding and recovering from that. Even though it was very uncomfortable, and I know there was some suffering involved in that, if you look at it from the big picture, the community done very, very well from that perspective. So we're going to talk about this from an all hazards approach. And I talk about it from the ABCs of disaster preparedness. So we're going to kind of jump around A through Z. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything from different types of disasters that we deal with, from the things that you as a citizen should work on, that should prepare for, that should consider as you kind of go through your daily life. I'm not kind of expecting for you to be, perfect at all of this. I'm not expecting for you to go out and spend a lot of money. However, I just kind of want you to have it in the back of your mind. And if you kind of pick up something this week and something next month, and when it's time for Christmas and your children or your husband or someone asks you, what do you want for Christmas? You're really, really hard to buy for. Think about, there's something on this list that I'm going to share with you that you could probably get that would make you a little bit more prepared for a disaster. When something happens, this would be a perfect opportunity for you to be able to get that. I will apologize in advance that I got a little bit of sinus stuff going on. I guess it's just the weather. That if I get the coughing, you're going to have to see me sipping on something here. Just excuse me for that already. So my job here in Moore County is I do emergency management. So all throughout the year, I primarily do planning. I do a lot of training, such as this, not just for our community, for our citizens, but for our response agencies. I do quite a bit of exercises. So trying to make sure that our response agencies are prepared. So we give scenario type training and exercises. We put together these, for lack of better terms, examples of what a scenario or what a disaster may look like. And we let all of our response agencies kind of run through those, either doing a tabletop or some type of functional scenario, and allow them to participate in that to kind of work the bugs out of it and see how things go. So that it's more like muscle memory, so that they're ready when an event happens. So it's not the first tornado that they've ever been through, or the first hurricane, or the first active shooter, or whatever type of disaster that we might be working with. So I do a lot of that all throughout the year. I maintain the county's emergency operations plan. So we do a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions with all of our different entities to ensure that we've worked out all of this planning process, to ensure that we're all on the same sheet of music, that we've all discussed this, that there's no confusion about whose roles and responsibilities that they are during these type of events. That the city is going to do this, and the county is going to do this, and the state is going to do this. And the different individual departments or divisions are going to handle things in this particular manner. So we have to work all of that out during blue sky days like today to ensure that whenever it's storming and the water's rising or the wind's blowing, that all of that stuff kind of works seamlessly, and you as a citizen don't even really know that there's any particular thing going on. I do a lot of these preparedness like things, trying to keep our citizens to understand that they really need to be prepared. Okay, that we need to understand that there's a culture that you need to understand that you need to take care of yourself some. Can you imagine being dependent upon government, dependent upon us to take care of all of your individual needs? Can you think of a big disaster to where maybe there was a community, a city, a parish, that it appeared to be, at least from the news, that they were really, really dependent upon government? Can anybody think of one in recent history? Maybe Hurricane Katrina. Did anybody really watch Hurricane Katrina unfold? From Scott's perspective, it really looked like that they were really leaning on the federal government. Everybody wanted to know where FEMA was. And I'll be honest with you, it takes FEMA a pretty good, at least days to be able to kind of spin up their response, to be able to get things there. And from watching the media involved in the Hurricane Katrina response, they were struggling. They were suffering. The community, the citizens were in pretty bad shape. And it took days and days for FEMA to be able to spin up their response. That's probably not the best for the community there. It probably should have been a little bit more resilient, a little bit more self-sustaining from a community themselves. Either the citizens, the cities, the county, even maybe the state should probably have been able to take care of themselves a little bit better, other than being totally reliant on the federal government to take care of themselves. Does that make sense? Okay. So a lot of places around will say things, they have little catch slogans like the first 72 are on you. Okay. The first 72 are on you. Which what they're trying to say is there is an opportunity, there is a chance that we may not be able to get services to you for maybe the first 72 hours. I'm going to use an example of like Hurricane Helene. So thank God we've not had a Hurricane Helene here in central North Carolina. We've had some devastating hurricanes here, but not anything to that level here. I'll use something more like a hurricane, I don't know, Hurricane Matthew would be okay. There were some areas of our community that we were not able to access for a period of time. Let's say 24 hours or so during flooding. So if you lived in those areas, you understand why it would be necessary for you to have some supplies, some equipment, because we just couldn't get to you. Okay? Could you imagine if we had a pretty large tornado, or we did have flooding from a hurricane and you were cut off because trees down or power lines or flooding across roadways, we could not access your particular community, that we could not get emergency services to you, ambulances, fire trucks, police cars, etc., for a day, 2 days, maybe even 3 days, that you would need to be able to kind of sustain yourself, food, water, to be able to build shelter, to kind of take care of yourself. I know those are far reaching. It's really hard to imagine that. Probably hard to imagine Hurricane Helene, people in the mountains thinking that as well. But I bet you now, if you'd ask them, you know, is there an opportunity that this could ever happen? They would probably say yes, that it's very possible or plausible that this type of an event could happen. So we spend a lot of our time on response. And I'll be totally honest with you, we are so blessed in Moore County from a response standpoint. Most of our citizens just do not understand how blessed we are. Our county commissioners, our cities, our municipalities do a phenomenal job of providing emergency services. From an EMS standpoint, from a 911, from a law enforcement standpoint, I can't speak for everyone, but I can tell you from the county's perspective, if we can justify it to our county commissioners, we get it. They are all very proactive from an emergency services standpoint. So our EMS chief's in the back of the room back here. If he goes to the county commissioners and says our call volume is increasing, our population is increasing, we've got these developments, and we really need to build a new EMS station, we need to add a new truck to better serve this particular community, they approve it. They give him additional personnel. They add a new station or a truck to be able to serve that community. They're that interested in emergency services. I know that the sheriff has been successful with that. So we're pretty blessed to be able to live in a community that kind of puts response at a higher level to where we're not kind of strangled by some of the finance type stuff. And then mitigation. Does anybody know what mitigation means? Can you give me maybe just a rough definition of mitigation? Okay. It is true after, but we can also mitigate prior to a disaster. So what are things that we can do to prepare for and prevent disaster related or the effects of a disaster? So give me an example of things that you could do to mitigate the effects of wind associated from a hurricane at your house. Cut trees. Good job. Great. What else? Perfect. Good. Something kind of simple. Trash cans. You know, lay trash cans down. You know, tuck them somewhere up against the house, underneath the deck or something, so they can't be, you know, flying objects. What else? Umbrellas, chairs, you know, tables, any of that outside furniture related stuff. Y'all get the idea there, okay? What about from water, from flooding? What are some things that you might could do to mitigate from that? Sandbags, perfect, good. So if you know that you kind of live in a low-lying area and water could run in, or you've got storm drains, then you could go out and ensure that those things are cleaned out, that there's no debris or pine straw or pine cones or things that could stop up in them storm drains that would cause flooding, correct? Those are all mitigation activities. Are those things that you could potentially do? You don't really have to wait on public utilities or call the municipality to come and do those for you. You could probably take a broom or a rake and go do that yourself just to make 100% sure that it's done so that you don't get flooding in your basement, right? Those are mitigation activities. Good, perfect. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we kind of go through here. So, this is called billion-dollar disaster states, okay? Billion-dollar disaster states. And if you'll notice, North Carolina is one of the ones in black. We are a billion-dollar disaster state, along with several more, Texas and Georgia, and a couple more there. Really, that's just to depict that we are a high-hazard state. We have our share of disasters, and then some. We've got enough to share with other people. We would love to share some with other people. She mentioned in my bio that I do some work with what's called the North Carolina All Hazards Incident Management Team, and I actually love that part of what I do. I'm blessed that Moore County allows me to do that. Just after Hurricane Helene, kind of my deal with Moore County is that I stay in the county until we know that the disaster is over with and that nothing can affect Moore County, and then they allow me to go and help other communities. So when Helene came through, I stayed until Friday afternoon, and we had some tornado concerns on Friday afternoon, and as soon as that stuff kind of went east of us and we got out from under all the tornado warnings and watches, I asked my boss, I said, do you think we're clear? He said, yep, I think we're clear. So I said, just ask and make sure. So he called up the county manager. County manager says, yep, I'm good with it. I think we're clear. So I called the state and I said, okay, I'm clear. I can be deployed. So the state said, okay, we'll get you, where your assignment's going to go. Well, that afternoon I had an assignment. That Saturday morning I deployed up to Yancey County, or the city of Burnsville, and spent the next week helping up there. That was a pretty rough area, was hit pretty hard here. That, I think, is a great opportunity for me to learn in a rather large disaster, for me to gain skills so that if we ever have that type of disaster here, then I've already kind of been through that. I've got some of those skills, capabilities that, I can bring home from there. And that's kind of how my boss looks at it, and the county manager looks at it, is that's on-the-job training, probably some of the best on-the-job training that you can ever get. So I'm pretty blessed to be able to do that. But sometimes we would like to share some of those disasters with other people. So I'm going to run through these A through Z, and you'll have to kind of help me remember to give them a little bit of a break here, because I will forget. If in the meantime, if I don't give you a break in time, y'all know where the bathrooms are and there's some snacks there. You won't offend me if I do that. I'm going to kind of run through this A through Z and hit some of the highlights with you here. But I think the number one thing that you've got to do is this awareness and preparedness. You got to be a little bit aware of what's going on in the world. You got to take on some of this personal responsibility to prepare and take care of yourself. I was just telling him, I've been married to the same woman for the last 34 years. And I absolutely, positively love her to death. But she really has no concept or grasp on what's going on in the world around her. She lives in her own little world, and it surrounds 4 grandchildren. That's all she thinks about. Moves from one to the next, to the next, to the next, okay? That's all she's concerned about. is which one she can get her hands on. When one leaves, she's ready for the next one. She can't tell you if it's going to rain or it's going to storm or hardly what the next day of the week is. And that's great. She is a great Mimi, but she just really doesn't know. I mean, there could be a hurricane off the coast, or whatever. She really is in a vacuum from information. She doesn't watch the news. She doesn't get on the internet. She just bakes cookies and plays with grandkids. That's about it. So from an awareness standpoint, she's not there. Okay. From a preparedness standpoint, she is not there. Okay. I have to work really, really hard to ensure that she kind of has that type of information. I beg of you, especially the men, we don't have very many men in here, but the men in the room, if that is the case, and women in the room, if that is the case for you, then you got some homework to do. You got to go home, and the men in your life, you've got to, if there is men in your life, you got to work on them here. So my question is to you, like, if you go home and there's water running into your house from a broken water line, and you don't know how to cut the water off, you got a problem. Okay? You need to know how to cut the water off. You need to know where the tool is, where the main is to go and cut the water off. Somebody needs to show you. Okay? If you don't know how to cut the power off, if there's sparks coming from something, if you smell smoke, if you smell something burning and you need to cut the main off to the house, electricity, and you don't know how to do that, somebody needs to show you how to do that. Okay? And I'm just as bad as the next here. Okay? So I'm kind of taking some of that responsibility to myself. Sometimes I shelter Mimi and I make it to where she can take care of grandbabies and she didn't have to worry about other things like that. So I need you to be aware and prepared. The definition of an emergency is something unexpected, a serious threat to personal safety, often life-threatening, involve an intensity of emotions, psychological reactions, requires immediate action. Let's go back and talk about our power outage here. Was that unexpected? Boy, it was unexpected on Scott. I wasn't planning for it, I promise you. Y'all might have been, but I wasn't. That was not in my calendar to happen on a Saturday afternoon. Could it have been a serious threat to personal safety? Absolutely. Okay, we were concerned about it. Maybe not from your house standpoint because you were technically safe at home, but I'm going to tell you what, all these street lights out, that was a serious threat to personal safety. No offense to you personally, but most of our citizens can't drive in daylight. At night, with no street lights, concerns me. All right, that's a concern here. Often life-threatening, involve an intensity of emotions and psychological reactions. No, don't raise your hand here. How many of you were a little scared of this? Hey, I'll tell you, I was a little scared. I mean, not scared, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking, what's next? The first one didn't bother me too much. The first one I thought was kind of a fluke. I said, a squirrel has eat something or, something is just strange happen. But then when the second one happened, two things don't happen like that back to back. Something strange is going on. So then I'm sitting here saying, okay, something else is getting ready to happen. What is it? All right. And that waiting game kind of makes me nervous there. So those emotions and psychological reaction there can be a little bit stressful there. So if you're not prepared, if you don't have some of those kind of items to kind of help with that, could this be a little bit more scary to you? What about those people that are on oxygen at home? What about if you had a baby at home or a loved one at home that was on some type of medical equipment that required electricity to be able to run? Would this be a bigger disaster for you to power out? Or it'd be huge. I can't imagine it. I have a sick grandbaby who for a while was on oxygen and required electricity. Would that have been just an absolute scare you to death type event? It would have been. All right. So, I mean, that would have been horrible for someone here. But if I'd had a generator, would that have changed everything? Okay. Would I have been able to relax a little bit with that? Yeah. And a decent supply of fuel or whatever. So if I'd have been a little bit proactive, I probably could have avoided situations like that. Being proactive allows you to not be a statistic. You kind of understand your responsibilities. You're able to take charge of your destiny. You're able to maybe be an example to others. And then you got those that I like to say, this is kind of my famous quote here. Those are the ones that call our emergency operations center, and they talk to Miss Candace that's in the back of this room back here. And they light into her with both feet, and they fuss and they cuss and they pitch a fit about not having power, and there is nothing in the world that she can do about it. She is just an innocent bystander in here. She's trying her best to help. She got the best heart because she ain't got no power at her house neither. And her family's at home without no power. And she's stuck at work. And they just light into her, boy, because she's the one that just happened to answer the phone. And she can't do a thing in the world about it. But they're just mad as can be because the power's out. And all it really is because the television, the cable television's out. Or something along that line. So when in fear, when in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout. If you're not prepared, then what the little disaster just becomes this huge disaster. And those people tend to make it everyone else's disaster. So you've probably heard this up. Your lack of preparedness kind of makes it everyone else's, priority there. So I'm asking you to just take an opportunity to kind of think about what's important to you. If having a hot meal is important, then we need to be able to think about how are we going to heat up something if we don't have power. If a fan, that's my wife's kind of pet peeve thing here. She just cannot sleep without a fan. Absolutely, positively cannot sleep without a fan. So guess what we have at our house? An electric fan that runs off of batteries. If we don't have power, we're going to have an electric fan. She's going to have a fan one way or the other. Okay? Because I can't live through that again. We've had power outages, so we've got to have an electric fan here. I learned my lesson one time and it'll never happen again. And I'm going to keep batteries. So kind of think about those things that you just have to have. All right? So I want you to be proactive. Think about planning. Education on how to assess those risks. Think about where you live, what your kind of weaknesses are. If you have potential threats, I just told you a couple of those things about flooding and electricity. Those are always two that you kind of have to think about. Think about it if your road could easily be cut off. If you got one way in or one way out to your community, those are concerns that you need to have. Think about preparing. I'm going to show you in just a few minutes a supply kit. I want you to think about those. I want you to think about practicing. I don't know how many of you have kids that live with you, but I urge you to practice with kids. They really need, if you got grandkids or whatever, especially if they don't live with you, but they stay with you occasionally, take the opportunity to practice some of that with grandkids. Because they're a little bit out of their element. They wouldn't know how to respond in your particular house if they stay with you on weekends or so forth. Responding. Review procedures that will preserve life, and then recovering are those things that we do after a disaster to be able to prepare us for the next type of disaster here. So look at things more in this. So some people see, a disaster. Others kind of see an opportunity associated with this. Now, I don't know how many of you would see an opportunity associated with this, but try to look at things, on a bright side of this. I have to kind of think about it from a grandchild standpoint here and try to keep from scaring them to death. So if we're going to have a power outage here, I have to kind of think about it from their perspective is, you think my grandchildren, the oldest one I got 6, you think they're going to be terrified of that? So what do I have to do as a grandfather? Hey, let's go camping. Let's play, let's build us a tent. I got these lights here. Let's get up under the, the blankets in the living room, and let's play with this flashlight here, and let's read books. You understand what I'm saying? I have to kind of look at that to kind of get their mind off of this, what would be a very scary type event for them, and try to kind of calm their nerves by looking as some other type of an opportunity instead of blowing this, up as, this is this, home, and this is a bad event here. So we talked a little bit about a disaster plan already, and so we're gonna talk a little bit more about this, and then we're gonna talk about some supplies as well a little later on here. But when I talk about a disaster plan, I want to look at a couple of things here. So a place that we could meet with family and discuss why we need to prepare for a disaster, explain the dangers of things like fire, severe weather, disasters to children, plan to share responsibilities, to work together as a team, discuss the types of disasters are most likely to happen, pick 2 places to meet. One would be if your home is damaged. One would be right outside your home in case of a sudden emergency like a fire. So pick a place outside your home, a big tree, the mailbox, the driveway, somewhere outside your home to where if you go out the front door and I go out the back door, we both know that we're going to meet in the same place. What we don't want to do is you go out one door and me go out the other, and I can't find you, and me go back into the house looking for you, and you were out safely the whole time. What's the problem with that? Now, if I go back in and you were out safely, that's bad. Does that make sense? So we need to know where we're going to meet at so that we've communicated that here. Then we need a place outside your neighborhood in case you can't return home. So think about that. Let's say you go to the grocery store. Something happens, I have to evacuate. So you're not going to be able to come back home. I'm not at home now. Where are we going to link up at? Where are we going to communicate? Your answer would be, I'm just going to call you on the cell phone. Have you ever tried to use your cell phone after a disaster? You're not going to be able to make cell phone calls. I promise you that. Everybody else is on the cell phone. Right? So think about where you could meet at. Think about public buildings, maybe library, okay? Police department, fire station, something safe to where y'all could just go and connect. Something that you and your loved ones share with each other to say, this is where, if we can't go home, this is where I'm going to meet you at. And y'all just know that. You link up together. Ask an out-of-state friend to be your family contact after a disaster. Often we see this easier for you to make long-distance phone calls than it is for you to make local phone calls. So you might not be able to call your loved one on their cell phone locally, but you could call your great aunt who lives in Kansas because you'd be able to get an outside line to be able to make a long-distance call. So you could call your aunt who lives in Kansas to say, hey, I'm going to be in Southern Pines at the Southern Pines Police Department. And then your loved one could call their aunt who lives in Kansas, and she'd say, yep, I just talked to your loved one. She's going to be at the Southern Pines Police Department. Makes sense? So think about it from that standpoint. Discuss what to do in an evacuation and plan how to take care of your pets. Number one issue we have when we ask people to evacuate is pets. I'm not leaving without my pets. Okay. We make plans for your pets. We're going to give you opportunities for your pets. It may not be that your pets can stay with you in your hands or in your arms the entire time. In our shelters, we give you an opportunity for your pets to stay in the vicinity with you, and you'd be able to touch them throughout the day, but they can't stay right beside you all the time. They stay in the same building, but they can't stay like in your arms the whole entire time because there's other people in the room with you. So people struggle with those pets. So if that's the case, you got to have a plan. If you can't go to a congregate shelter, then you got to have a plan for that. Do we have a problem or concerns with drought and heat in Moore County? We're probably in one now, if we really look at it from a drought standpoint. We do have abnormally dry and high heat problems, during the summer for sure. Do we have these evacuation and shelter in place issues a couple of times throughout the year each year? I'm going to tell you honestly, we are probably the most aggressive county in the state as far as opening shelters. Our board and our manager opens shelters more frequently than any other county in the state, I think. Their thought process is they would rather do it early than they would try to do it during an event. They don't want to be opening shelters while there's ice on the road. So they would rather open it 12 hours before it starts snowing or ice on the road. And if people want to come, then they'll come and everybody's safe. They don't want to try to open it afterwards and try to get people out in the elements or after it's flooding or things along that lines. So this is kind of what a shelter looks like. Our primary shelter that we use the majority of the time is in Carthage at our Moore County Parks and Recreation facility right there off of 15501. Or you have the opportunity to shelter in place at home, or there's hotels, or you can stay with friends or family or whatever the situation is. The question you have to answer for yourself is, can you manage yourself and or your family for an extended period of time without whatever the problem is? So without power, without heat, without water, without whatever it is. So if you have electric heat, if you have to have power to have hot water or to pump water, so if you lose power, then you've lost, kind of the most essential things that you would have here, then you're going to be in pretty bad shape. Now, if only thing you lose would be water to drink, maybe not, because you could buy bottled water to cook with and to drink, then maybe it's not that bad of a deal. Maybe you would be fine if you have some type of secondary heat or, maybe you have gas heat or some other type of heat. But you have to ask yourself is, can you do without X for 2 days, 3 days, whatever that might be? My gut always says I would add an extra day or two. Even if whoever, Duke Power or whoever says that they're going to have the power back on their little computer thing. You look at it and it says, we're going to have the power back on Tuesday night. I wouldn't believe it. I just don't trust people that much. I'd say at least Wednesday, maybe even 2 days. That's Scott. Okay. I just don't believe a computer. I would want somebody to swear to me. Got to ask yourself that. If not, then I would consider you look for an opportunity. Yep. Fine with me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can I make a little announcement? Okay, so we're going to have a little bathroom break for about 10 minutes. And then whoever has not called to actually sign up to come today, if you can meet me over here at the coffee table, we're going to go ahead and put your name on the list, and that's how we'll be able to draw door prizes later. Okay? So thank you very much.
Yep, perfect. 10 minutes. right, let's pick up and keep going here. So, fire carbon monoxide. You don't have to test monthly as much now. Now we've got, most of them have, 5-year batteries. We don't have to worry about them quite as much now. If you have the older kind, then my suggestion would be to either rotate those out, change those out. If not, then, waste a couple of dollars and change them out. You'd be amazed at the amount of house fires that we still go to that don't have working smoke detectors. Most of your fire departments are still in some type of program that have smoke detectors. If you don't have one, you can call the fire department. They'll come put one up for you. Our deputy fire marshal's in the back of the room. He could help with that process. It's just, it's not something that we can let happen in today's society. Carbon monoxide detectors, if you have gas, if you burn gas, whether that's a hot water heater, some type of gas heat related, then you need a carbon monoxide detector just as easy. We have a couple of those every year that someone gets really, really sick from carbon monoxide poisoning. It's called the invisible killer. It's just because of an inefficient burning, some malfunction with the heater system, and they're getting carbon monoxide poisoning from that. So you need a carbon monoxide detector if you have gas, heat, gas, hot water heater, etc. within your house here. Agriculture, we don't have as much agriculture in this general area, but without in the county, we do. We have lots of concern about our agriculture. We have to take care of that. We do quite a bit of planning and preparation for that. We have lots of concern about agricultural disease that we deal with, that we plan for. North Carolina has a great agricultural department that is really forward-leaning. They stay on top of their planning process. We work really, really closely with them. We've got a great partnership with them. We're, I would say, really, really far advanced from a national perspective in North Carolina as far as North Carolina ag is concerned. This is from Hurricane Floyd, I believe, but that's pigs, and that's down east. So that's pigs on top of a house, an actual pig farm. And then this is corn from an actual flooded cornfield, of course. So hurricanes. We're pretty familiar with hurricanes, right? I'm going to be honest with you. Hurricanes don't scare me that much. Why? You know they're coming. From the minute a hurricane spins up off the coast of Africa, that's all we hear about for 2 weeks. Before it's even a hurricane, when it's a dust cloud and then a tropical depression, that's all we hear about. The weather beats it to death, and they sensationalize it, and they compare it, and they number it, and then they name it, and then they just beat it to death, okay? And if you don't know about it, I can't tell you about it, okay? There's probably no need in me sending you some type of an emergency message to say there's a hurricane coming, because you're probably aware of it. You can't miss it. You go to the grocery store, there's nothing on the shelf. You say, why is there nothing on the shelf? And they say, there's a hurricane coming, okay? We buy all the milk and the bread because there's a hurricane coming, and all the toilet paper now. I don't know. But anyway, hurricanes you're pretty familiar with from that standpoint. They can do quite a bit of damage to our community. We do need to prepare and plan for them. But the good news is we're very aware that they're coming. We can take action. If we live in one of those concerning areas, we have to worry about flooding, we live in a house that has trees around it, or we're worried about wind associated with that, we have every opportunity to be able to evacuate, to go stay with a loved one, to evacuate out of the area, to go to a shelter. There's lots of opportunity to make decisions because we have so much advance notice with that, right? Questions about any of that? Great. Important documents. Make copies of things. Okay? Keep your originals somewhere safe, but make copies of things. If you have to evacuate, bring things with you. Marriage license, house mortgage, vacation home, property ownership, automotive, motorhome, wheels, jewelry appraisals, driver's license, trailers, titles, insurance policies, bank accounts. Everybody wonders what this tennis ball thing is for. If you have kids, buy you one of these 3 things of tennis balls. Give the kids the tennis balls to play with so they'll leave you alone, or grandkids. Okay? If you have dogs, buy you one of these. Give the dogs the balls so that they'll play with them. Okay? Put all of your important papers in that because it's waterproof. Okay? Put it in your evacuation bag so that they don't get wet and get messed up. Okay? It's the cheapest waterproof, option that you're going to have to be able to stick all of your important papers down in to be able to do that. This is what gets us, though. This is the ones that get us. These people with this just wait and see attitude. This is my father right here. That's the most stubborn man in the world. So this is, my wife knows where I get it from. The people that says, honey, I think we should evacuate. Let's just wait and see. I think we should buy a generator. Let's just wait and see. I think maybe we should, clean up the yard and get all of this stuff out because the wind's going to blow and it could, blow things through the window and create all this flying debris issue. Let's just wait and see. That's the things that's going to bite us right there, okay? Be careful with that. See these people swimming? That guy right there said, let's just wait and see. Okay? This guy here, he said, we shouldn't have just waited. We shouldn't have waited. Okay? This guy's insurance says y'all shouldn't have waited. Y'all should have evacuated a little earlier. 72-hour kit. I'm going to give you a website in a few minutes if you want to get a hold of these lists. But I'm not going to go through this entire list and read it to you. But there's, a list out there. There's multiple lists out there of what's considered to be a 72-hour kit of kind of the essentials that would help keep you, sustain you, make life somewhat comfortable for you for 72 hours. Okay? And it includes just a couple of things like a battery-powered radio, some of which you might already have. A manual can opener. Man, ain't that a novel idea? Some matches, some non-perishable food. You might say, I don't really like them Nutri-Grain bars. They're better than nothing, I promise. They're better than looking at that can of soup because you don't have a can opener to open it with. Sanitation kit, things like a bucket, and you'd say, well, I'll never. You might. It beats the options. hygiene kit. I told you I just went to Helene. You know, the first 4 days I was at Helene, I took a shower with dude wipes. Y'all know what a dude wipe is? It's like a baby wipe. It's just they just put dude wipes on it because men would not buy baby wipes. But it's just, it doesn't smell like baby wipes, you know. But I mean, that's the only option. When I got up there, there was no power, no water, no cell, no nothing. So it's not take a shower and stink. And I'm going to tell you, after 4 days, I wouldn't be able to put up with myself, or I can take a shower with dude wipes. So you'll be amazed at what you do after a couple of days. So other emergency needs, things like cash. If we don't have power, like during the power outage, do we have ATMs? Are people going to be able to take your credit card? Even if you can find fuel or find, food, are they going to be able to take your credit card? But have just a little cash stuck back somewhere. Some real money. Phone numbers. If your phone goes dead, how many people can remember all those phone numbers? I don't even know my own phone number hardly. Okay? You know, at the drugstore when they say put in the last 4 digits, I say, huh? I mean, it's like a test question. I'm like, can you help me? Give me a hint. I mean, I don't know. I got to phone a friend to do this or something. Honey, can you tell me what the last 4 digits of my phone number is? I have to look that up or something. Think about some of this, a first aid kit. Some of this just makes sense. You probably have a lot of this stuff already. You can put it in a variety of different things. Here, they've got it in a backpack. One of my favorite things to do is to go to Walmart and get one of these rolling suitcases. Not one of the real expensive ones here, okay? Not Samsonite, or is that still a brand that they sell or something? I think it's still one that's really expensive or something. Not one of those. Just get one of these cheap ones, okay? Just something that rolls, that's got a handle on it, because most of y'all you're not going to pick up something really, really heavy, but something pretty cheap that you can roll. Because I want you to be able to, if I tell you to evacuate, I want you to be able to carry it with you. If not, then get you one of these big, just a plastic clear tub with a lockable lid on it and put everything in it, because you don't want anything to be able to get to it, to be able to damage it. But put all of these items in it, slide it up under your stairwell or in the back of your closet or something along that lines, and don't worry about it. But some of this stuff, if you just buy a little bit along the way, buy a couple of items this week or this month, a couple of items next week or next month. Ask your son to get you a battery-powered radio, or you might even get a chance to win one today. All right? Pick you up a couple of extra little things as we go. When you get your kitty litter next time, buy one of those that's in a plastic bucket, so you'll have the bucket when it's done. I don't care how you come up with it, but accumulate these things over the next couple of weeks or months so that you build your own 72-hour kit. It don't have to be pretty. It's yours, okay? Assemble these items into something that will help you stay alive and be fairly comfortable. Y'all might not know this because it was not in the news, but during our power outage, there was people in our community that were busting up their furniture and burning their furniture to be able to stay warm in their house in our community. That's kind of sad if you think about it. I mean, if you busted up grandma's 100-year-old kitchen table and chairs to burn to stay warm in 2022, that's a bad day. I mean, it's pretty bad that that we're to that point. So kind of think about being prepared a little bit. Lightning, thunderstorms, do we have issues with this? What else comes with lightning and thunderstorms? Hail, flash floods, fire, wind, Tornadoes, and this on here, just a couple more here. Tornadoes are the ones that scare me. Why do they scare me? Unpredictable and no notice. Okay, I say no notice. We do have notice, but it's notice like, here comes a tornado, there went the roof. I mean, it's no notice really. Okay, by the time we really get notice to you, it's over with and done. Okay, unless you are just honestly watching the radar, then it's no notice. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. These things here are just unpredictable. There's nothing. They literally just come up out of nowhere. It's a beautiful day. All of a sudden, it turns gray. Now it's black skies, and the wind starts picking up. It's rain. It's hail. It's a tornado. It's on top of us. Pretty nasty. Hazardous materials. Do we have hazardous materials in our area? Where? Every day. Not just on the train. Where else? Airports. Where else? In our house, that's true. On our roadways. Yep. We've got some fixed facilities. Not a tremendous amount of fixed facilities. We're not a big commercial, industrial community or anything. It's not like a Greensboro, Charlotte. It has a tremendous amount of industry, but we do have a couple. But we've got a tremendous amount on our railways and roadways going to those places. Okay. We've also got a military reservation near us. So I can promise you some of these planes and military convoys, things along that lines, are all concerns that we have to deal with. This is my suggestion of how you know about things like those tornadoes that I'm talking about. A NOAA weather radio. This is the quickest way. Okay. A NOAA weather radio is like a fireman's pager. You ever been at a restaurant or something, and you see one of our EMS crews or a fire crew or something? They're sitting there eating, and all of a sudden you hear beep, 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 and they get up and walk away, and they run out to the truck and they leave. Their pager goes off. This is the equivalent to that. It sits there on your kitchen, counter or beside your bed or wherever you put it at, and it never makes a sound until you need to know something pretty important, like that tornado warning or something pretty severe in your community, and all of a sudden it makes noise, and it lets you know that it's a pretty, severe incident near you. It doesn't notify you if there's something happening in St. Louis. It just notifies you if it's in your area, okay? And it'll say, that there's something 7 miles southwest of Pinehurst moving at 3 miles per hour, towards the Eastwood, North Carolina area, blah, 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 blah. And it gives you a couple of minutes to take some type of action to avoid or to mitigate whatever hazard this is. Most of the time in that $30 range, maybe up to $40, depending upon what bells and whistles. Do you want the Chevrolet version or do you want the Cadillac version? That's up to you. I don't care. Really, there's no programming involved. They have what's called SAME technology. Issues, I'll give you my phone number at the end. You call me. I'll send somebody to help you program it if you have problems. I wouldn't be able to. I'll send you some young kid that'd be able to help you, okay? We'll find somebody. Some like, fourth grader or something to probably be able to do it. But I wouldn't. So they're pretty darn simple. They don't even look very bad. I mean, they're not bad at all. We'll get your grandkids to be able to program it or something. But they work very, very well. I'll be honest with you, that's what we do. We got them in our own buildings. We got them in all our county buildings. They're in all of our schools. That's exactly what we do. They're in my house. There's one in my downstairs and in my upstairs house. And I'm the county's emergency manager. I got a 911 center that calls me, but guess what? I get this at the same time the 911 center gets it. So I get this, and then the 911 center calls me to tell me that there's something going on. I said, yep, I just got it. But it's a redundancy type issue. Okay? So $30 or $40, I'm aware of it. If I want to know what the weather is going to be today, I walk up to it and I push a button and it'll rattle it off to me. It'll say that, in my area, that the highs today are going to be 76 degrees. And it's got this great voice, and it runs through all of that today, and that there is absolutely no chance of rain on the horizon. And it just talks the whole entire, history of the weather to you throughout that in its little computerized voice associated with that. And it's all off of a tower in Ellerby, North Carolina, which is just right next to Chief Hunsucker's house, just to the west of us here. So flooding, that is our number one risk here. Okay, that's the issue that we're dealing with the most. Is flooding. It just keeps increasing every year. Why do you think it keeps increasing every year? She's 100% correct. Because every year we add more impervious area. More cement, more concrete, more roof structure. Yep. So we develop more, we create more runoff. It's what it is, okay? So this is not an uncommon occurrence for us. We have new places every year that never flooded before, and now we have flash flooding type areas. Those type areas, pretty common. Do we do this? Do we do this? Right. Turn around, don't drown. Okay? Turn around, don't drown. The answer to this is if you can't see the lines on the road, you don't drive through it. Okay? This is very, this will fool you. This water does not look very deep, but it's deeper than it appears. Okay? It'll get you in trouble really, really quick. Let me tell you, go ahead, I'm sorry. You can go to the county's website and tell. There's maps on our county GIS website to be able to tell. There's actually a state website that tells as well called FIMAN, F-I-M-A-N. You can look for NC FIMAN, F-I-M-A-N, and you type in your address and it'll take you right. It's color coded. It'll show you if you're in a flood zone or how close flood zones are to you. But that's the easiest way to be able to do it. But it's been 2 years ago now, but we had flooding in the northern portion of the county, and we had a roadway flooded. And I was there. 911 center called me during the middle of the night and said, this roadway's flooded. So I went there and pulled my truck across the road like this, had my red lights on, waiting on DOT to come and put out signage. So while I was sitting and waiting on DOT to come and block the road, this car comes and goes around me, okay, drives over into the grass, goes around me, and drives through the water. And they get way out here, I mean a long ways from me, and their car stalls out way over yonder. And then now they're out walking around their car, and they're stuck now. They're disabled out here in the thing. So, I mean, they're not hurt. They're just disabled here, right? And it's just flooded water. It's not like it's a swift water environment or anything like that. But their car is obviously disabled, damaged probably. There's water inside their car. And it may be really, really messed up. So DOT actually gets there and puts up signs, and they actually pull them out because they're on the other end of this flooded area. They were almost to safety there. So DOT comes around and gets to my side. They don't drive through the flooded water. They know better. They come around and they put their detour signs out. Well, I go back home. So I take a shower and go to work. I'm at work a couple of hours, and this lady calls me and asks to speak to me. Candace sends her to me, and she starts in on me, and she says, I want you to tell you this story that happened. And I said, okay. She said, I was coming home from work, and, we got up here and said, I drove into this flooded water. I said, really? That's terrible. I said, yeah. And she said, yeah. And she just kept telling me about it. But she left out the part about driving around an emergency vehicle that had its lights on. And so she told me this whole story about that. And I want to know who's going to be responsible for my vehicle getting damaged like that. And I said, ma'am, did you not see that white vehicle with all its lights on that you drove around? Well, yeah. Well, was that a clue or anything that, you probably shouldn't drive through that water? Well, I probably shouldn't have drove through that water, should I? And that was pretty much the end of the conversation here. So, it's not smart. And we have people do it every year. Just this past year, we had a really, really bad problem with it. So flooding is pretty significant. Turn around, don't drown. We've talked a little bit about preparation already. Think about those things that you need. We need plans, procedures. We need to do some practice. Earthquakes. We don't have as big a problem with earthquakes. We are not within an actual fault line. However, I will tell you, it's been, 12 years or so ago, I was sitting in my office in Carthage, and I thought somebody had actually hit our building because the windows started shaking in the building. And I said, that's kind of funny. And we were feeling the effects of the earthquake here that was up in this Northern Virginia area that some of you probably remember that we feel. So there's a pretty nice fault line here. There's actually one here at Charleston that we can feel the effects of, but not as much in our particular area. I would not rule it out. There is the potential, but it's not something that we, have to concern ourselves with from every day. This is kind of my pet peeve. Is road signs, street addresses, house numbers. So we get lots of complaints, or I shouldn't say complaints, but we get lots of people calling to say, well, the fire department, the paramedics couldn't find our address. So can you tell me what the address on this house is? It is a 601, but could you do that from 200 feet away from the road at night? When it's rainy or foggy? No, not a chance. Okay. What about this one? Can you tell me what address that house is versus the one beside it? Because they're all using shared mailbox post. What about this one? Or these? So those are pretty bad examples, right? A lot of people don't put their actual house numbers on their house anymore. That's a bad omen. I don't know about y'all, but if I need help, I kind of want people to come and help me in a quick fashion. I have to really concern myself with whether my wife would even call help for me. So if she does, I need them to get there pretty quickly. She might delay, and she's thinking, how much was that insurance policy again? And she'd probably call Candace and says, everything paid up? Is everything ready? I think he's gone this time. So, and Candace says, do I still get my 10%? Yep, we're good to go. So think about that, all right? Versus, these are pretty good here. Most of our fire departments sell these. This is a little fundraiser for them. So, I think these are like $8 or so. And so they can put the letters on both sides, and you can put it out in your yard, or they can mount it. Some of them actually bring it to you and put it in your yard, or they sell you a little wrought iron post that goes out in your yard. There's these type that's actually a solar. This thing lights up, which really stands out at night. You know, we can see those pretty well. This is not terrible. You know, it stands out in your yard. It's pretty easy to deal with. That's not bad for the ladies in the room. That looks pretty nice out in your yard. But that's easy to see. Our paramedics can see that driving down. I mean, we get complaints as, you know, the paramedics had to go down the end of the road and had to turn around. They come back by really, really slow. They had to go down the road and turn around. But it's because they can't find your address. What about this? Can they see that? You know, you can see that. That's actually even reflective. But, I mean, look at this. It's direct. I mean, it's decorative, too. That looks nice. You can tell that you're tractor people. And if you told the 911 operator, hey, I got a tractor at my mailbox, man, we could. 4 people on that road had a tractor at their mailbox. All right? People tell us that all the time is, hey, I turned my porch light on. That's the night that everybody left their porch light on. The whole entire road had their porch light on. Did I mention my last name was Brooks? What did I say about setting an example? Am I out of time?
No, that microphone's cutting off. So try this one for a while. I'll switch.
All right. I'm almost there. Snow and ice. We've got a lot of snow and ice examples. Tornadoes we've already talked about. I'm almost there, but I am running out of time. Nuclear. We don't think much about nuclear, but we are in what's called the 50-mile IPZ of the Sharon Harris nuclear power plant. So it is up here in the edge of Wake, Chatham, Lee, and Harnett. It kind of sits here. So we are in the 50-mile, what's called ingestion pathway. We're not in the emergency planning zone, so we don't have to worry so much about radiation for us. What we have to worry about is for crops and animals and things that have to stay outside and to live outside. It would still be significant concern for us, but depending upon which way the wind is blowing, it could be more of a concern than others. Lots of volunteer opportunities if this type of business or you're interested in helping out. You can see me offline to do that. We do offer several community emergency response team programs. We've done a lot of those historically throughout the community. I don't think we've got but one currently that's active, and that's over in Whispering Pines. And that's a 21-hour training program that we come out and deliver. It's usually 3 hours per week, so we choose one night per week for 7 weeks, and kind of prepares you for that. The health department runs a volunteer program as well. If you have a medical background, so if you're a doctor, nurse, paramedic, pharmacist, nursing assistant, etc., then you can volunteer with the health department, called a Medical Reserve Corps. Everybody's familiar with the American Red Cross, which of course takes volunteers, and they're in desperate need still for people to respond out to house fires and those type of events for them. We do have a concern for wildfire. Our fire marshal's office does a great job in planning for those, and has great response plans in conjunction with our forestry group within the county, and in mutual aid with all of our different fire departments. So they mitigate and manage that end of the wildfire concerns for us. And then we do plan for all of this, what I just call as Mr. X, but we do have a concern about terrorism and violence. It's sometimes worse than others. We just had the U.S. Open that all of y'all are familiar with. We concern ourselves with that because that would be a major show. You know, if you could conduct a terrorist event during something like the U.S. Open, that would be a big deal because of all the news coverage. or some type of violence. We do have an increased amount of drugs and alcohol within our communities. We do deal with bomb threats, and of course we still have, just like everybody, disgruntled employees and those domestic related issues. You can kind of look at the overall, this triangle here. We're the same as everyone else. I do think that Moore County is a bit sheltered. We're blessed. We live in a pretty safe community. Some of you would probably disagree because you've just been exposed to a particular case. But all in all, I think that we're somewhat blessed to live where we live and under the circumstances that we live. Last couple of things here, and I'm going to let you go here, but 911, call early, don't hesitate. We do have a problem here. If people calling their neighbors or their family that lives across town, call 911, let us sort it out. We'll come and figure it out for you, okay? So if you don't know what's going on, call 911. We'll kind of help you come and figure it out. Call before you do anything else. Time is critical. I used it. Most of you have had CPR before. Remember, 4 minutes brain damage is going to be possible here. Geographically, we're getting a busy, things are beginning to spread out. Traffic is becoming more and more of an issue. We need all the help we can of getting ambulances to you. This is a little bit about fire here. If we can get a fire truck to you normally in less than 8 minutes, we can keep a fire to the room of origin, which means if it was a kitchen fire, then you get a new kitchen, okay? If we can't get you a fire truck within 8 minutes to your kitchen fire, then now you don't have a house anymore. So we need you to call as early as possible, okay? We need you to go on to the county's website and sign up for our emergency notification system. The only phone number I have for you is your home phone number. And some of you probably don't have a home phone number. You've probably canceled that. So many people now live off of a cell phone or you have a voice over IP phone. If that's the case, I do not have your home phone number anymore. So I don't sell your data. I don't do anything with it. I don't call you unless there is an emergency in your area. You just go online, you look for our emergency notification system registration, and you put in your cell number or anybody else's cell number that you want, your husband's, your son's, or whatever. If an event happens near you, missing children, a hazmat incident, wildfire, something similar to that, then we would call you on your cell phone and we would say, hey, there's an event in your area. It would be a repeated message. Some of you are signed up within your municipalities as well, Southern Pines, Aberdeen, Pinehurst. We ask you to still sign up with the county as well. There's other resources. This is a really good resource, readync.org. Gives you information about that 72-hour checklist or 72-hour kit that we were talking about, and lots of other information to be associated with. The moorecounty.nc.gov website is where we post all of our information. So if a disaster is going on, that's where we recommend that you go to. Miss Kara in the back of the room keeps up our Moore County Public Safety Facebook page. She does a phenomenal job and has been posting very frequently on that since she's been with us. So if you are a Facebook person, we suggest that you follow us from that because she does a great job trying to keep it up. So if we've got a disaster going on, she will be posting as much information as she can gather about that disaster and what's happening and the information that you need to know. So somewhere between our webpage and Facebook, hopefully you will be able to get that information as well. Twitter, maybe not quite so much, but those are overall our social media contacts. And then two last things here. When approached by an emergency vehicle, be sure that you pull to the right. Pull to the right. I don't care if it's like 15501 and there's a turn lane in the left, pull to the right, okay? From the time they're knee high, we train firefighters to pass on the left. Okay? Pass on the left, pass on the left. Somebody pops them in the back of the head every time they try to pass anywhere else except for the left. Okay? They're driving 80,000 pounds worth of fire truck. Okay? If they go to the left and you go to the left, there's a problem. Okay? You are not going to win. Go pull to the right. Learn CPR. It's not that difficult. Chief Hunsucker's got a way back there for you to do what's called hands-only CPR. Takes just a couple of minutes to learn how to do CPR now. The ladies back there have two different programs that we offer, one called File of Life and the other one is Yellow Dot. File of Life and Yellow Dot. File of Life, you put your medical information on it and it goes on your refrigerator. So if you can't give us your history, your medications for your loved one or yourself, all of that information is available to our paramedics. It sticks to your refrigerator. The same information, you just run a photocopy of it, and that information goes in a folder for Yellow Dot and goes in the dash of your car. And I seen one out in the parking lot. The sticker goes on the back glass of your car. So if you're in an accident or something happens to you while you're away from home, our fire, law enforcement, EMS crews know that your medical information is within your vehicle and they can gather that information. We also have a medically fragile registry. So we ask you that if you have someone at home that requires some type of special assistance, whether that's mobility, power, some type of assistance during a major disaster, that you let us know that, so that in terms like the power outage or significant flooding or hurricanes or tornadoes, we know where our needs are and we can be proactive and try to reach out and make sure that you get the services that you need. We're not miracle workers. We may not be able to get the power turned on any quicker for you, but we may be. We may be able to say, power company, is there anything that you can do to try to get this area cut on? Because I've got 3 special needs people that live in this area, and if we don't get the power on, I've got to move them somewhere. And it might work out. I don't know. But if I don't know that you live there, then there's no chance of it. That's my contact information if I can help with anything whatsoever. I don't stay in the office a lot, but Miss Candace and Kara in the back, they can probably answer 90% of the questions. And you can also email me. My email is not up there, but they can give it to you, or I can give it to you if you want to write it down. And you can always get me by email as well. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. That's the website right there on the bottom. Okay. Yep. There you go. Other questions? Real quickly, I had a question about generators. I get that pretty often. If you can handle a generator, then generators are a great thing. But generators are somewhat heavy, and you got to fuel them up, you got to maintain them. So portable generators might not be the best option in that case. Plus, you have to wire them, you have to plug them in. There's a process involved in that. They could be somewhat dangerous, if you're not very familiar with them. There are home generators. Depending upon the size of your home and associated with that, somewhere in that, just a rough number of a place to start. $12,000 or so is a home generator that comes on automatically, that powers a house. Just to give you a starting place, if that's something that you're interested in. You can buy small generators for hundreds of dollars up to 1,000 or so, but then it's something that weighs 100 pounds or so that you have to move and fuel and connect and things. You just have to kind of make that decision for yourself. Is that something that you can handle and manage, Or do you have someone that can handle and manage that? Or do you just need to look at other options, such as evacuating to a hotel or a shelter or things like that? Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Not that I'm aware of. I'm sorry? Amazon, Walmart, most of your drugstores sell them. Where can you buy the NOAA weather radios? The NOAA weather radios. All of them now have what's called SAME technology, SAME, SAME technology, and that's the one that narrows the area down so that you don't get notified for stuff a long ways away. They used to, if you had one years ago, you would get notified of stuff not in your area, but they've really, the technology has gotten much better. So now you only get notified in your general area. I think Amazon, you're probably in that $24, $25 to $27 range is where I would suggest. But Walmart, last time I looked, was $28 to $30. I have found them at the drugstore on sale for less than $20. So you just kind of have to keep your eye out. With Black Friday coming up, you might be able to find them on sale somewhere if you kind of keep your eyes open for that. But it's called a NOAA weather radio. They even make some that have a crank handle, but all of them are battery operated. They recharge. So it's according to what you want out of it. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Don't go so fast. Okay, so now we have door prizes, and Scott's going to call out numbers, and we're going to match the person with the door prize. Okay, very good. Well, you're just going to call out a number. So we have numbers 1 through 30. So you pick number 14, Jill Margison. All right, Jill, you won yourself a NOAA weather radio. All right, and we have another NOAA weather radio given by the Public Safety Department. So can you give me another lucky number? 27 is Francesca Ketterman. Look at that, nice and easy, right in front. You're welcome. Okay, and I also want to thank all of our lovely sponsors in the back that came here today to set up a table and provide some of these lovely door prizes. So now we're going to give away a fire extinguisher. Okay, Scott, give me another number. Pat Smith. All right, another nice and easy in the front row. Very good. Thank you. All right, lay it on me here. Number 19. Let's see, Cortez. All I have is Cortez is the name. All right, you won a battery daddy. Seen these on commercials. Thank you. All right, we have 2 more door prizes to give away. Number 1, Joan Thigpen. You get something from Shelley at Brookdale Senior Living. I believe it's a flashlight. And what else do we have in here? Portable door lock. That's interesting. There you go. Congratulations. 1 more door prize. Such a decision. 34, we don't have 34, we're up to 30. 30 is Joyce. Yay, Joyce. You got some puck lights. So you put these on, you put the batteries in, and then you can have them, and they say that they last 1 year battery life. Very nice. You can see in the dark as you're walking through your hallway. Well, thank you, Scott, for this lovely presentation. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. Please visit our booths in the back, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.